Welcome back to my hometown. Thanks for taking a little time to join us today. Today we have a little bit different format than normal. Today I have my wife Kim with me today, and she is going to introduce our guest for today. Kim?
Thank you. Please welcome our guest for today. He started training clients part-time just to make some money while trying to finish up his college degree. The part-time gig turned into a full-time career, and for the last almost 13 years, he has owned and operated Synergy Fitness, where results are never guaranteed, always earned, and he meets you where you're at. Please welcome personal trainer, gym owner, writer, and founder of the Mind Body Project podcast and My Hometown podcast, my husband, Aaron Degler.
Thank you, Kim.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So this is a little different. When you first started doing the My Hometown podcast, and you went to all the different businesses, I continued to ask, when do you get to tell your story? And you would just laugh it off and say, I don't know. And here we are.
Here we are.
So it's a little different, and so I'll be asking the questions, and he's going to be giving all the answers today. So I hope you enjoy it.
So it's a little different being on this side versus that side holding the paper.
It is. It is. It is. Okay. So my first question for you: share just a little bit of your background and how and where you came from.
Okay. So depending on how far we want to go back.
Well, are you from Bowie?
So I'm from Bowie. Well, not really.
Okay.
So I was born in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
But we moved here when I was 4. My parents were missionaries. We moved to BBTI, Bible Baptist Translator Institute. Basically, it's a place that teaches missionaries how to translate the Bible into other languages. So that's what brought us to Texas. We actually came to Texas on my parents' anniversary, my sister's birthday, on August 31st of 78. Okay. Yeah, 78. So that's how we landed in Texas, but I consider myself, this is my hometown because I've always lived here. I've only lived in a couple houses since we moved here. So it's pretty much my hometown.
Your hometown.
Yeah.
And so if people have listened to some of the other podcasts, and maybe your Mind to Body podcast, they would know that you grew up not living a healthy lifestyle.
Right. So I have shared on the Mind Body Project, my other podcast, that I was always, we don't like to say the word, but I was a fat kid, a little roly-poly fat kid. I always joke that my parents allowed me to have a little dorm-sized refrigerator in my room. I was the youngest of 4, so I got the best of both worlds. I got, the best of having siblings, but yet by the time I was in high school, really then to junior high, it was just my sister and I. And so I got to basically be the only child at home. So my parents allowed me to have a little dorm-sized refrigerator in my room. I could keep Ho-Hos, Cokes, whatever I wanted. And so I could, get it anytime I wanted. So being healthy was never a thing for me. When I was 14, Mom and Dad, we joined here in Bowie, Tomlinson's Fitness Center. For those of you now would know it as Silver Strings. Silver Strings Dance over there.
Dance Hall.
Dance Hall is where Tomlinson's Fitness Center was started, and where I first went to the gym at 14. And my parents, we all joined together, and they dropped me off. They went for a while, and then they would just drop me off and take me. Go ahead.
So would you say that's where your love for fitness started, or your love for health, or would you just say maybe your love for lifting weights started?
I would definitely say just love of lifting weights. Because Donnie Tomlinson, if Donnie listens to this, at the time I thought he was an old guy, but as I look back, I think he was probably early 20s.
Okay. Old.
Mid-20s. Because I was 14.
Yeah.
And I try to remind myself that at the gym now, that when young kids see me, they probably think that old guy at the gym.
Yeah.
But it would definitely be a love for lifting weights, because Donnie, he was nice. I still have the 3x5 card that he wrote the exercise out for me. It all fits on a 3x5 card, how many sets and reps, and I have it framed sitting on my desk. And he wrote that out for me, and that's what started me at 14. And he allowed me, when he was gone, he'd let me work the desk, which, wasn't much. You just sat there, but he paid me and said, you know, you can have free Coke from the refrigerator. So I was like, okay, cool.
Free Coke to work there.
Oh yeah, we had Cokes at Tomlinson's Fitness Center. Yeah.
I never knew that story. There you go.
Yep.
So at what point, because you didn't graduate high school and think that a job at like owning a gym was going to be what your career was. You came from several different jobs until you finally landed in the fitness world. So where were those, and how did that all come about?
So at a high school, I was working at McDonald's. It was only my jobs in high school was food industry. Got out of high school. I'm still working at McDonald's. I didn't like working. Actually, my dream as McDonald's manager, operations manager here in Bowie. I started right after they opened. I'm working my way from manager trainee to operations manager. My dream was to own a McDonald's. I mean, that was the dream because you go to Hamburger U, you get a ring that has McDonald's. That had the emblem on it. That was my goal. That's what I wanted to do.
Hamburger U being Hamburger University.
Hamburger University, yes. For McDonald's, yeah. So I was just, things didn't work out. I didn't get to go to Hamburger U, so I didn't, get the ring. But just after 3 years, it's just not what I wanted to do. So I applied at a factory job, worked there for 5 years at Boeing, got laid off because of 9/11, and then went back to school for a little bit, stopped going back to school. Then I went to another factory job and got laid off once again. And when I got laid off that time, I made the decision that I would never be laid off from a job again. They said, hey, I was a week away from being laid off. They said, you can come back to work. I said, no, that's okay. I decided, you know what? I've always enjoyed lifting weights, so I'm gonna start doing personal training. And so I decided I was gonna get my certification, get the equipment, but we can back up a little bit. And really, shortly after you and I got married, we've been married almost 20 years. I ballooned up to
314 pounds.
314 pounds, and very uncomfortable. Very just. I still lifted every day because at the time I had equipment.
So you're saying you can lift weights every day and still be 314 pounds and unhealthy? Okay.
Still, yes, because I lifted 6 days a week.
Right.
I'd go over to my parents had gym equipment right behind their house, so I'd go lift there, and still extremely unhealthy. I'd still eat. I'd come home from working at the factory job and have hot dogs and cheese and Dr. Peppers and all that kind of stuff. And you actually said, hey, I need to lose about 10 pounds. Do you want to join Weight Watchers with me? Okay, I'll support you. And so I joined, and the first week thought I was going to die because
starved to death.
Starved to death. And I remember calling you from work.
Yes, this is not going to work.
I worked second shift, said I'm going to die. It's not going to work. But I think the first week I lost 5 pounds, and the next week I lost 3 or 4 pounds. And so that journey continued, and after a month or two, you stopped going. I kept going. It's when we had a Weight Watchers meeting. It's prior to Zooms and virtual meetings.
Right.
And we had the one-on-one. So I went to group meetings every Tuesday, and did that for a whole year, and worked on losing weight and lost 100 pounds. It was about a year, right?
It's about a year. It's not a quick thing.
No, there was weeks where I gained, but for the most part, every week it was half pound, 3 pounds, 2 pounds. And I continued to lift, and I said when I plateaued, I started doing cardio, and then I started doing cardio when it kind of plateaued.
And so from there, did you start big and go straight into a gym atmosphere of owning a gym after, so say, once you got laid off, what was that decision at that point? I'm going to go open a gym, or?
So when I got laid off from the last job where I said, factory job, which was 16 years ago, I said, I'm never going to get laid off again. Never going to happen to me. Nobody's going to be in charge of whether or not I have a job. And so I decided I was going to go back to school. I was going to go back to school, be a teacher. It took me until I was in my 30s to decide what I wanted to do with my life.
Right.
And really, we back up, and it was all boiled down to even before that, when we were sitting at the T-ball field in Bowie at the ball field.
While you were working a factory job.
I was working a factory job, and I was 30, 31 maybe. And I remember I was having...
You were 29. You were going to be 30.
Because I was having kind of a hard time turning 30 because I thought I'd never be that much overweight, that broke, and that down at 30.
And working in
a
job that you didn't want.
I didn't like. And so when they laid me off, I decided, well, I'll go back to school. I'll start becoming a personal trainer part-time. So I did that behind my parents' house, a little metal building. Some of my clients back in the day may remember that metal building. I still train some of those clients to this very day, 16 years later.
Yes. That metal building was not heated, and it had no air conditioning, and just open the garage door for the breeze. But during the winter, we had a little kerosene heater that we'd put in the middle, and then between sets, you'd come over and everybody'd warm their hands while the bird flew around, and you dodged it.
And
that's where it started.
Clean poop off the bench.
Yeah, it wasn't clean.
Yeah, and I mean, my dad still kept all of his lawn mowing stuff around there.
Yeah.
Weed eater, all his
It's just all parked all around.
And we could only...
Had some rugs laid out.
And when it would rain, it would flood.
Yes.
So you'd have to dry them all out. And
people came.
And people came.
And that's when you realize there was a need for fitness. That people wanted that because they would, with no restroom. There was no restroom.
If they came, they knew if they were a little bit out of town, because I had some that come from out of town, they'd have to stop at the McDonald's and use the restroom. I mean, if it was dire needs, and they could go in the house, but typically if it was early in the morning or whatever, and mom and dad might not be up or decent.
Right.
And in the summertime, we couldn't train past 10 o'clock because it was too hot. Metal building get up to 110, 115 in the summertime. So,
and so you went from that to then you needed a bigger space. And maybe not even necessarily bigger space, but your own space.
Yeah.
That wasn't with the bird.
Well, because my life was always start and stop college. Go to college. Oh, this is what I'm going to do. Something better comes along. I stop. Bless my parents' heart, they were very patient with me, and they'd always encourage me. They'd encourage me to start back. They'd encourage me to stop. They always encouraged me. So, after being there 2 years, I decided once again, tinkering around going to college for those 2 years. I said, okay, I'm going to go into the personal training business all in, full-time. And so, once again, I quit college. So I could go do personal training full-time. Moved uptown. The old movie theater.
Yes.
I don't remember what it used to be called, but...
Maybe the Majestic.
The Majestic, yeah. I don't know. It's the one uptown that has the bars on it.
Yes.
But that's where I went, and I had a little, probably 500-600 square foot place that Mom and Dad's moved up to, 800 square feet, had AC, heat.
Bathroom.
Had a bathroom. And then that's when I started doing upstairs. I started doing spin classes and TRX classes.
Because so the lower part wasn't enough room, then you went ahead and leased out the top part to add in some different classes that you brought to Bowie that
at that time
not been done.
Yeah, because we didn't have any spin classes. I was the only trainer in town at the time. There's another lady out in Sunset, but I was really the only one that had actually started something prior to my gym being. I'd opened a gym before in 2004. I was only open a year, and it didn't. It was one of those things I thought you just unlock the door, people would come in, but it didn't work that way. When I started out with, the peak that year was maybe 160, 170 members. We closed with about 30.
So you found out quickly that coming in, opening the door, sitting there all day, and then locking the door and leaving at night was going to require more than that.
Yeah, and I'd be sitting behind the desk eating my McDonald's that you might bring me because I was there all day long.
Right.
Or at the time we had KFC, so bring me KFC and so I was even then I really wasn't. I mean, I'd lift weights, but I really wasn't healthy.
Right.
I really wasn't healthy at all. At all. So then we were downtown for about a year and a half, and at the peak, with our spin classes and TRX classes, I was teaching probably about 10 spin classes a week, every day of the week, 2 to 3 a day, and then TRX classes, 3 or 4 a week. So it could be even more than that.
And then on top, with your personal training clients.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was working 12, 13-hour days between.
And so at what point did you decide to make the shift from downtown with the smaller, just personal training studio to I'm going to open a gym, a full-fledged gym?
So that,
which became Synergy Fitness.
Right. And Synergy had been around. Synergy's name, my first gym was called the Muscle Connection. Synergy, that name had been around. I'd had that since probably 2003, 2004. Synergy really means the sum of the parts are greater than the whole. It's a mathematical term. And I'm not mathematical at all, but it's just that we can be greater, just the sum of us can be greater than the whole. And I forgot where I was going with that.
So how did you make the shift from being there to deciding I'm going to open a gym?
Yeah. So that
again.
So really, I was still part-time. Really, when I moved down there, still really wasn't full-time. Didn't have enough clients to be really full-time. I still had plenty of time to do all kinds of stuff.
Plenty of time on your hands.
Yes. Yeah. Those were the days. And so we had gotten bikes. I had had a bike for a while. I'd been doing bike riding and half marathons and that kind of stuff. We got you a bike. I think we only had it, 2 days?
Yeah, about 2 days.
Yeah, we went riding with some friends. We were just about done.
We were done. We just decided to take the back road, one little turn.
One little turn. You might say that one turn changed our life.
It changed our life. It was a left turn. We turned left instead of turning right.
We turned left. We hit a little gravel. You hit some gravel. Your bike went out, slid out from underneath you, and you landed on your elbows.
And wrist.
And wrist. You got kind of nauseous and almost passed out.
I think I lost maybe I hit my head. I had a helmet on.
You had a helmet on. We were being safe.
I think I might have knocked myself out.
And so you're in pain. So we go to the doctor. The next day, I don't even think we went that day.
No, we didn't go that night.
Turns out you fractured both elbows. You broke your wrist. And so, so you were in wrist cast and 2 braces. And so you're at 90 degrees like that. You're doing hair. And that was the beginning of summer. And then basically I was out of commission. You're out of commission all summer long.
And I was full-time. We were depending on my income at that time. And because you were part-time.
I was part-time. So I was blessed. We were blessed that clients just started coming. And, went from working, part-time to full-time. And clients just kept coming.
And so that then,
how? So our conversation was, what if something happens to me? Something happened to you and your income stopped. So my thought was, well, with the gym, at least, if something happens to me, there's still revenue coming in. There's still something coming in on a monthly basis if something happens to me and I can't train. So that's really how Synergy Fitness began. And then we had talked about it and we found a space. We found the space we're in now. So, we started out about 400 or 500 square feet. We moved downtown. Combined, we had a couple thousand square feet. We looked at the space where Synergy Fitness is now, which was the old bowling alley, if anybody remembers it. I remember. Which,
that was called Dubow Lanes.
Dubow Lanes.
We might not have known the Majestic, but we did know that.
Right. And so we looked at the back part of Dubow Lanes because it was in better shape than the front. The front was really deteriorated. The back was just pretty much concrete and some studs. And so you and I came and looked at it, and Terry Gunner showed us around, and it had a leak because the sprinklers had leaked. There's water everywhere. It's in pretty rough looking shape. And we said, we're going to go ahead with it. Shortly thereafter, maybe a week or so, we went on vacation. On vacation, we talked about, no, we don't think it's a good idea. It's a bad idea. Let's not do it. And my hesitance for confrontation and telling people no When we got back, I never got the courage up to tell Terry, no, we didn't want it.
That we changed our mind.
Yeah, and then Terry probably doesn't even know this. And then as we, I said, I got to tell him, because he was, again, we were blessed once again because Terry and Gunnar and John Swafford, they did all the remodel for me. They were great to us. They helped us out tremendously. Without them, Synergy wouldn't have never been started. So, I got too far into it, and I thought, well, I can't tell them now because they put all this money into it, and I just can't tell you what a blessing those two gentlemen were to us to start it. And so I couldn't tell them, and so we didn't say.
So we owned a gym.
We owned a gym, and we were 2 weeks maybe away from opening when we
had our open house.
When we had our open house, and if you come in Synergy Fitness, if you can imagine, we had sheetrock laying there. We didn't have sheetrock up. We didn't have it painted. We didn't have it tape embedded. We'd have to take people around, potential members, and say, if you sign up now, you get a free T-shirt. The T-shirt had guaranteed spelled wrong.
We were, nothing but first class.
First class.
All the way.
We had to explain to people as we went from room to room, okay, if you can imagine this is what this will look like. This will be the spin room. This will be the TRX room. This will be that.
Yeah. Serving cookies.
Serving cookies.
Yeah, we served cookies.
We served cookies
at the open house.
Yeah.
Yes, but how did that turnout go? How was the open house? Was it a success?
It was a success. We had tons of people show up.
Yes.
I don't know if it was for the free T-shirt or just to look around, but again, there had been no gym in town since '04, when I closed down in '04, and this was 2011 when we getting ready to open here, and it all happened within 3 months from 3 months from the time we looked at to the time we actually opened. There was so much work to be done. So much work to be done.
And so a question that I have about owning your gym or owning your business is that, do you do that full time?
So when I used to...
What's your other job?
So when I became a personal trainer, I'd tell people I was a personal trainer, and they say, oh yeah, but what do you do for your real job?
Right.
Well, that's my real job. And so now, that is it's my career. It's not really a job. I would say it was a job the first couple of part-time when I was part-time, but it's my career. Health and wellness and fitness is my career. The gym is my career. Personal training is my career. Always, what do you do? If somebody asks me, what do I do then? I say I'm a personal trainer, I'm a gym owner. If somebody said, what do you do now? My answer is I change people's lives. And that's what I do. And it may be through exercise. It may be through coaching. It may be through a podcast. It may be through something I write. My goal is to, as you mentioned in the intro, is it's meeting people where they are. And over the years, I've found that we have to meet people where they are to be able to help change their lives. And that may be meeting them where they're at if they're reading something that I've written. It may be meeting them where they're at on social media when they just hear a snippet of what I might have to say or write. It may be, in this podcast, my hometown. It might be in the Mind Body Project. Meeting them, it may be when they walk in the door. I'm meeting them where they're at in their life. Whether it's they're 314 pounds and need to lose weight. They are depressed. They, have an eating disorder. They have a show a bodybuilding show they want to do. They just want to be more functional fit. They want to get up and down off the floor. They want to play with their grandkids. Wherever they're at is that, that's my business, is changing people's lives. And I'll do that however I can reach them is what I'll do.
Good, nice. So a follow-up question to, did you ever get that college degree?
Yes.
With the starting and stopping? And this is a two-part question. You've said your parents were always super patient with you about starting, stopping. They would say, yes, I think you should go back to school, or yes, I think it's probably time for you to quit for a while. Do you carry that same patience for your kids and supportiveness as it applies to their life about starting back to school, not going to school? So those are my two questions.
Okay, so I'll address the did I ever finish my degree? So off and on, went to college, and worked on it. At 38, I decided that I had 2 years till I was 40. It was also 2 years till our oldest, Kobe, graduated high school. So I made a decision that still working full time, and I had chosen to get a degree in teaching, all level certification PE, with a minor in special education, because my parents were teachers. I didn't know what else to do with my life, and so I thought, well, I'll do that. And so at 38, I said I need to finish. So I decided I was going to finish by the time I was 40, which my 40th birthday was in June. Kobe graduated in the end of May. And so I said, I'm going to get a degree, my bachelor's degree, by the time he graduated, by the time I turned 44. Two reasons. One, it wasn't going to change my job any. It's a bachelor's of science in kinesiology, movement of the body, that's what I do. It's not going to change what I do. So why do it? Because I need to show my kids that no matter the age, that you can reach your goals. And it was hard work because now we had a family. We had 4 kids, a full-time job. You're working, kids are going to school, we have sports, all this stuff. I wanted to show them that it can be done. And so I graduated from Texas Women's University just shy of 2 weeks before Kobe graduated high school and just a month before I turned 40. So I wanted to show them that when you set a goal, you have to work hard to achieve it. And so does that carry on with my kids, with our kids? It does, because I didn't really find what I wanted to do in life until I was 16 years. 32.
Right.
I didn't find what I wanted to do with my life until I was 32, and I really didn't find the purpose of my life until the last couple of years. And so when it comes to the kids, I encourage our kids to do the same. We have one that has finished college, finished with a bachelor's, finished law school. We have another one that has gone to a trade school to be a cosmetology and barber. We have our oldest, Kobe. He just lacks probably about a year left. Morgan, she has a couple years left of college. I encourage both of them to stop going to college because they didn't know what they wanted to do. And it's okay not to know what you want to do. Is it going to be harder when they go back? Yeah, it will be. They'll have life, they'll have kids, they'll have everything. But if they want it bad enough, they'll do it. But just because, I encourage them, don't go just because you think that's what you're supposed to do. Do what you feel is your purpose. Now, when we talk about Kobe, he quit going to college. We encouraged him to quit going to college. He became a personal trainer at a gym. He was a personal trainer. He was a personal trainer in Cindy for a little while. And then they moved. He was a personal trainer at a chain gym. That worked into, he was doing personal training, doing sales, selling memberships. And then that turned into, he was all in sales, stopped training. And then from there, it's turned into what he does now, which is his career, which is sales. And he loves it. And he's really good at it. So I encourage him to do those things because you never know where they're going to lead. It's our belief that a college degree isn't going to make or break you. For me, it wasn't going to change my life any, but it's something I wanted as a goal. It's an accomplishment that I wanted to have. And I wanted to show my kids that accomplishment could happen.
Nice. Very good. So your hours at Synergy Fitness, is that just when you started Synergy Fitness, was that just Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 gig and home, weekends and nights, or how did that look in the beginning?
So if you're opening a small business and a small business in our community, Synergy Fitness, you have big hopes and dreams. And I'm going to do this for a little while. I'm going to work this hard for a little while because it's going to get better. It's going to get better. And so our hours were 5 a.m. 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. Saturdays were open half a day. Sundays were closed. And I worked all those hours. I was here open to close. ate breakfast, lunch, and dinner here. Got home, went to bed, was in bed by 9:30, got back up at 4 o'clock the next day to do it all over again. Because we didn't have really money for employees, didn't have employees. We had our kids' birthday parties up here. We had all kinds of different things for our kids. I missed out on sporting events. I missed out on 10 years of their life to put into my small business.
Well, that was one of my questions. Was there lots of kids' activities that you had to miss?
Yeah, and I mean, and you can attest to that, you know, you'd go places
And they thought I was single.
Yeah.
Thought I was a single lady.
Yeah.
I was not.
Because I was
And
always
as
here.
that husband, my answer was always, he's at the gym. That's where he's at all the time. So would you have done any of that, looking back now and knowing what you did miss, would you have done that differently?
For my kids' sake, yes. I should have been, I don't know how I would have done it differently, but I should have done it differently. The business now is different because, you know, the business then, you know, when we talk about 16 years ago, it really couldn't be done like it's done now. Because now we have technology, we have a lot of great things that have come about that we can do business differently than I did 16 years ago. I definitely should have done it differently, but I think every year I'd say it's going to get better. These are the plans. And it's kind of like losing 100 pounds. If I had to do it again and go through all that, I don't know if I would. Just like when you lose
'Cause you know the work that's going to be required.
100 pounds, you just, okay, I got to lose another pound. I got to lose another pound. But then if you have to do it again, it's like, that's a lot of hard work. That was a lot of cardio. That was a lot of running, walking. That was a lot of food restrictions. That was a lot of hard work. And to do it again, I don't think I'd do it again. I would do something different. I don't know what that is. But again, all of that has gotten us where we are now. The lesson I think our kids learn from it is that to work hard, to be hard workers, and if you want something, then go for it. Our kids were very supportive, and, you know, very understanding. But it definitely looks. But over the years, I have created and crafted the business more the way I want it.
Right.
And more that is better for our life.
Right. So with that, what have been some of your biggest challenges in owning Synergy Fitness, a gym in a small town?
One of the biggest things, so back in, you know, 16 years ago, 2011, our community was not as fitness and health minded or thinking forward. So it took a lot of education. What are spin bikes? You know, what's TRX? What's RIP training? You know, how do I work out? You know, because that was really before Pinterest, Instagram, Facebook. I mean, you had MySpace, but MySpace wasn't on there. You know, where you could just pick up workouts or anything like that. So there's a lot of teaching and education on everything gym. I mean, how many times we had tons of people come in and say, I don't know what to do. I've never been in a gym.
Right.
I have no idea what to do. Show me what to do.
How do you turn on the treadmill?
How do you turn on a treadmill? And because of social media and those things now, we don't really have those issues now.
Right.
Because now now we can be 24/7.
Right.
And you know, when people would ask me before, I'd say, no, never. I mean, I'm never going 24/7. And I said that all the time. You know, and 3-4 years ago, we went 24/7. Again, because of technology, because of the things we can do differently. Now, you know, I can operate everything for the gym all from my phone. I can be gone. I can go on vacation. I don't need employees. One of the challenges was employees. You know, and I found over the years that that's a challenge for me. So I created my business that doesn't need employees. And it needs the gym to keep it running, you know, on a day-to-day basis, takes very little manpower to actually do because of technology, because of online signups, all those things.
Okay. And so what would you think have been some of your business? Wait, let me back up. When you said that some of your biggest challenges was just teaching people about fitness in a community that wasn't super health and fitness oriented. I will say, I think that, as you said, times have changed to where they see that more, and people are just more conscious of how they see that it's better for their life to work out, to be healthy. But back when we started, when you started your fitness journey, there were two girls in town that ran, and that was when you saw them. It didn't matter if you were a mile down the road. If you saw people on the road running, you knew who it was going to be, because that's how little fitness was really in our town. It just really came a long way. Now I can remember used to, we'd go on vacation, we'd be places and people were walking and exercising and running and everywhere, and I would just think like, wow, there's people that work out everywhere. Where when we were home, you knew the ones that worked out. Whereas I think over the time that we've had, even just having the time of Synergy Fitness, that you'll see people everywhere. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to know who they are.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. There was just two ladies, and they were the runners, and everybody knew they ran. And it's really I think, and you're right, we knew all the runners, we all knew the cyclists. We really started a big group of cyclists, started a big group of runners that would really get people together. People would run, we'd start doing races. I'd like to think that Synergy Fitness was kind of responsible for growing that community of running and cycling and being active. But like you said, now you might see somebody out running or riding or being active, and you not necessarily know.
Right.
And that's way different. I mean, we have tons of different groups now that get running groups together, whether it's from a women's running group to guys to whatever, you know.
And it just makes your heart just a little bit happy to see that all to go on and you know, think how it's changed. So what do you think have been some of your biggest successes?
I would say definitely that would be one, was, you know, that there's more activity in our community. There's more awareness. Because now, you know, you can, again, when we started, we were the only place. Now you have an option of, you know, now there's 2 gyms in town. There's a boxing gym. There's a yoga studio. There's other personal trainers in town. So, you know, I think as a gym owner and a personal trainer, oh, that's competition. No, for me, again, you know, realizing my purpose in the last couple of years, is to change lives. So if that truly is my purpose, then I'm excited about there's a place for people to go, you know, because as a business, as we've talked about before, I'm not for everybody. Synergy Fitness is not for everybody, and that's okay. You know, I've had clients that say, oh, I want to train with you, or I go to the other gym, and I say, hey, that's fine. If you're getting exercise and you're actually utilizing it, then I'm super happy for you. Would I love your business? Sure. But my purpose in life is to change lives. And if that's to encourage you to go wherever you're comfortable, then that is the goal. And it doesn't have to be trained with me, work out here. Yes, we have a great culture. We have a great environment. We have a supporting, loving environment. We have a family environment. We have a place where you can come and feel accepted. That is our culture. But again, that culture has changed over 16 years. I had no idea 16 years ago what a culture was of a gym, of a business. So some of our successes is we have created that culture of people feel comfortable. We have clients that have been here since day one, that have been with us at Synergy Fitness for 12 years, have been with me training for 16 years, was doing classes with us, 14 years ago, that have been with us through the whole journey. And still with us because they're part of our family. And to me, I think that's a huge success when, people that started out, and I can't believe people actually came to me in that metal building for personal training. I just can't believe it. But they followed us through the journey.
Yeah. And
they're still with us. And I try to be open and honest with people, whether it's, about the gym, about training, that, whether it's I have bad food days, I don't always feel good. They've seen me go up and down in weight over the years. Still kept the weight off, but there's been 20, 30 pounds gains, lost, because that's just who we are. It's not, so you would think, how can an overweight guy that grew up all through junior high, all through high school, be overweight, not an ideal looking personal trainer, how can that person be successful in a business that requires you to have a certain look? And I think that's a success because, it's sometimes I am where a lot of people are. And it's not that I have and I hope that they see, that I don't have the perfect physique as a personal trainer, but I'm always working towards it. Same as I taught the kids, that if you have a goal, keep working towards it. That goal is sometimes hard to achieve, but keep working towards it. And I think people in our community see that I am always wanting what's best for them, whether it's through the gym, whether it's through this podcast. My hometown is all about getting people to know about our businesses, to know about the owners and their hearts behind it. So the success is in, too. Synergy has led me to be able to do other things. It's allowed me to have influence. Influence putting on 5Ks. Our Synergy Shuffle we did for 5 years? Through Synergy Shuffle, we were able to give well over $12,000 or $13,000 to our local PE programs. A few years ago, I joined up with Seth Johnson for Backpack Buddies, and we have now moved that 5K into an All-for-One Community 5K. Gathering All-for-One Community is our sponsors, but really hosted by the other places in town, like the Dominion, Good Vibes, True Health and Wellness, True Health and Fitness, and
Wellness.
Fitness. Yeah. And, all for one community because we want to make it healthier. So now that we're going into our 3rd year for that 5K. And so it's really having influence over our community of we want to give back. And I think that's definitely a success that we have is being able to give back to our community because it's great to have people come and make money. That's a great thing. But we've got to give back to our community. And so at Synergy Fitness, just like one of those things we did a few years ago was start our circuit room for our seniors, where if you're 60 and over, you pay $10 the first month, and then after that you come for a donation only. And because I wanted to give it away for free, but it was like, it has to have some value. And so I said, how can I do that? And it was $10 the first month. After that, they give a donation. We collect all that donation at the end of the year, and we give it to our fire department for their toy drive at the end of the year. So we collectively, by giving a little, we can make a big difference. I think the last couple of years we've given, well over $1,000 to the fire department.
And so the circuit room is utilized for the, is it 60 and over?
60 and over.
60 and over. And then you also have the what we call the shaker class for 60 and over, and it's a free class 2 days a week. And the reason why you want to do that for the seniors in our community and to have them be able to utilize that is for what reason?
So really, it all started 7 years ago. I think 7 years ago this summer. It started because, they need moving, our moms need to move some. And so, had a client at the time and I'd been tossing around the idea and she kind of pushed me to that. Again, it goes back to sometimes those things that, those things we have in our life that whether it's a bike wreck that change your life, whether it's somebody that just gives you a little nudge to do something, and that class we've been doing for the last 7 years. Started out with our moms to keep them active. Started out paying, charging $5 a class. And, before the pandemic, I think.
Way before.
Yeah, before the pandemic, I thought $5 a class per person wasn't making a big difference in our life. So I said, let's do it for free. And our class numbers soared. We went from 5 or 6, our moms, making up most of that, and to well over 40. And then the pandemic hit, and we dropped, we took off a month, and they were brave enough to come back, and we started with,
We took off longer than a month.
It's a couple months.
We took off for the required time
Yeah.
that we could not be open for
Yeah.
that
Few
area.
months.
Yeah.
So anyhow.
But they made it back.
They made it back. And we started back with 10 people, and we continued it on, and now we're back to a full 20 to 30. Every class, men, women. And we've seen great improvement in balance in some, that can't get up and down out of a chair very easy. Now do exercise out of the chair. It's all body weight. Sometimes we use like dumbbells, bands. The first Tuesday of the month you teach dancing in the chair. So we do all that from the chair. It's the most popular day, but it just makes it different. They have better balance. And even more than the exercise, again, it's about changing people's lives. It's the community. It's the connection they have with each other.
Right. They built their community within that class.
And they all talk, and and sometimes it's, some of them may not get out to see other people. So it's really a nice time for them to get out and visit with each other and kind of keep tabs on each other and have a community.
Yeah. When you talked about some of the members that have been with you since the beginning of Synergy Fitness, and even those that have been with you since the beginning in personal training, I call those the OG members. And those people have been, they watched our kids go from children to adults to parents now. We have a grandchild, and they have been able to witness that through the joys of social media now, since our kids are mostly away. But and I just think that's a crazy thing to think that they started coming when our kids were young, and now we have our own grandchild. And so with saying that about having a grandchild, is time different for you now with a grandchild than it was when our children were small, as compared to I can't get my words out, but with having the gym? Are you more apt now to say, I'm going to go do that, whereas when the kids were young and we had the gym, I have to be at work? So is that a little different now? Can you see things differently, do you think?
Yeah, definitely. 'Cause when I started the gym, I was 32. I'm about to be 48. And so you're younger, you're in that mindset of, I got to make a living. I want to, start a business thing. I'm going to get rich. I get rich. That doesn't happen. And like you said, we have games, or we have this. And I was like, well, I got to go work. I don't know what to tell you. I guess you got to do it. I guess you got to figure out how to be 4 places at once, because I got to be at work.
Right.
I don't know what you're going to do. Good luck with that. You managed well.
Thanks. I raised them.
Yeah, the time has definitely looked different. One is because I'm older. One is because I look back and see all the, hindsight's 20/20. I look back and see all the ways I messed up. Not being there, not doing those things, not being able to experience those things. And so now with Cal, our grandchild, it's like, I get almost like a do-over. So it starts to change the way I actually do business. I'm very thankful now that we have a 24/7, where I'd said before, never going to do that. But now we can go see him. I'll now rearrange clients. So if he's here visiting, I'll go home for a few hours. Whereas, I'd be like, oh, I got to work. And I realize that some of those things I need to work on, they can wait. They can wait till the next day, or they can wait till the next week, because he's only going to be here for a little bit of time. And I may not get that do-over again. And so it definitely changes the way, the time I make. And I think that would be my advice to business owners, especially younger ones with kids. Yes, you got to put the work in, but also you have to find the time for the kids. You have to find the time for spouses, for relationships. There has to be, I hate to say balance, because a balance means the scales are equal, and the scales are never equal.
Right.
There's going to be times when you're a lot of time with your family. There's going to be some time when you're a lot of time at your business. But over time, those should balance out. For me, for us, our scale was never balanced. It was always at work. And I'd say now it's a little more balanced. I take off by noon on Fridays, and I still work those hours Monday through Thursday, but on Fridays I take off and I'm off all weekend and we'll go do things. I don't mind taking vacation and doing things. So it has changed partly with age, but partly also experience of business and knowing what works, what doesn't work, knowing people, knowing customers. It's just knowing differently.
How do you think that your entrepreneurship character, I think is the word I'm looking for, has impacted your family?
The characteristic of entrepreneurship?
Yeah, like of you being an entrepreneur, their mostly life that they can remember of growing up. How do you think that that's impacted them?
I don't really know. That's a good question.
Thank you.
I like that.
Thanks. It's nothing.
I would hope, I don't know if this is the case, but I would hope that they notice the hard work, that they notice that I have a bad habit of not thinking things through, and if it sounds like a good idea, I'm going to go for it. You're more of a thinker.
Right.
You're going to think all of it through.
Right.
All the reasons why it may or may not work.
Right.
All the limitations that there may be.
Where you're just going to jump off the cliff and say, we're going to figure it out. And I said, no.
So I think it's a good idea. So I hope that it's taught them to try new things. And we've encouraged our kids to try new things. We encourage them to, since this is my hometown podcast, we've encouraged them to move away from our hometown. Our house is a 1/10 of a mile from where you grew up. I live 2 miles from my parents, where I grew up. We've encouraged our kids to move away. And I think every parent in our community should highly encourage their kids to move away. Because this is the norm for our kids. This is what they know every day. And unless you move away, you don't appreciate what we have. What we have in our hometown. And so that's why we do encourage our kids. Now, we encouraged them. None of them come home yet. They're still
Yeah, they
gone.
didn't. They did come back, and then they left again.
Yeah.
One of them, and we have one that's still here. So
But they do appreciate when they come home.
they do.
Because they always say, I'm going to move out of this town. I'm going to get away from
Yeah.
this town. But when they come home, there's things they want to do, things they want to see, people they want to see. When
They always
come
want to
home.
drive through town.
Yeah, they love driving
They come
through town.
home. We have some that when they do come home, they take the long way around and they go all the way through the town. We have some that go straight to the local restaurant to meet me there because I want to eat there. But when they are home, they want to know all the happenings of home, and they want to drive around and check out all the things of home. And it's home to them.
It's home to them. And they wouldn't appreciate that if they were still here.
Right.
You and I don't drive around town that often just to see what's going on. But to them, they want to see what their hometown is looking like. Is what's changed? Who's moved in? What new stores are there? So going back to that, I hope my entrepreneurial character, and it has changed even more so than when our kids have been home. Because since our kids have left, I'm a more different person than when they were home. Maybe a little more easier going.
Mellowed out a little bit.
My attitude, my mindset has changed from those years. And again, that's within the last few years of realizing my purpose and realizing what Synergy Fitness is for our community. Just like other businesses have mentioned on the podcast, there's not a day that probably has gone by that there's not days I think about closing. Even within recently, there's not thoughts that say, "Man, I'm out." I'm out. So I like being open and honest, and because I think that's important, and I think it's important for people to understand. So I'll just share a quick story that my dad shared with me. about synergy, I always ask him for advice. My dad, he never gives advice unless asked for it. And so, again, I carry that on with my kids. My kids will never get my advice unless it's asked for. But, you know, I've asked my dad about synergy fitness and, you know, what I should do. My dad oftentimes would say, you know, get out of the business, run for the hills. Because I always complain, always, you know, this, you know, all this. And, you know, I asked him just recently, he told me the same thing. You know, go back, you know, not go back, but go to teaching. And after student teaching, I realized that wasn't for me. That's not a change I could make. And that's, you know, he said the same thing, you know, get out, leave. And, you know, within a couple of weeks, we had a conversation again, and he shared with me, and he'd never told me this before, and he said, you know, instead of getting out of the business, he said, think differently about your business. You know, what brought us here were missionaries, translating, you know, the Bible into other languages, brought us here was missionaries. And going back to what my purpose is, he said, look at Synergy Fitness as your mission field. And I thought about that, and I thought, we often think about missionaries that come to our churches and visit. They've been to Africa, Uganda, all these cool places. But can't we do missions in our hometown? Can't we be, because he talked about if he had to write down all the people's lives he touched. My dad as a missionary and a former preacher and all these different things he'd done. And, you know, he said, I started thinking about you, talking about me. What if you put down all the people in your community that you've touched? He said, your number would far outnumber mine. And I haven't been a missionary anywhere. I haven't been to Mexico. I went to Mexico with my parents, but, you know, he was a missionary. He touched all those different people. But yet in my hometown, I had the opportunity because of Synergy Fitness, because of a bicycle accident, because of I can't say no, because of I don't like conflict, because of, well, it's too late, just let's keep on rolling, because of I didn't listen to my dad's advice when he said get out. I look at it now, and this was just a month ago that my dad and I had this conversation, that, you know, I look at my business differently, that it is a mission field. And there's people that I haven't touched yet, that I haven't come in contact with, that maybe haven't come into the door, they haven't listened to something I've recorded, something I've written. And maybe there's still something I am to write. There's still something I am to record. There's still something I am to do to be able to meet that person. Because that person is there. I just haven't found a way to meet them yet.
Nice. So I think maybe a couple of questions, and then we'll be done.
Could be our longest podcast
I know, sorry about that. But you, in your intro, we have written down writer, and you have alluded, is that the word?
Yeah.
Referenced.
Alluded.
The word that you are a writer. What are you a writer of, besides words? What do you write?
I write a lot of words. So, a few years ago, probably 3 or 4 now, probably close, I started, it's always our running joke, that on Fridays at the gym, at Synergy Fitness, it is the slowest day. And so our joke always was, because, I'll make this story quick, when Morgan, our oldest daughter, was 5 or 6, she could read.
She could read.
She could read it. We had a book sitting on our coffee table. That was the days when you had coffee table books. And it said, have a new baby.
Have a new child.
Have a new child by Friday. And so she was super pumped because she read that and thought we were having a baby
Friday.
On Friday. And so that was always our joke. And then so to the gym, if Fridays being the slowest day, you know, my joke was always everybody must have gotten fit by Friday. So a few years ago, I started an email on Mondays that I sent out called Fit by Friday. And Fit by Friday wasn't necessarily, and is not necessarily about you're going to be fit by Friday. It's the same as that book, Have a New Child by Friday. It was about teaching your child things and disciplines and a mindset. And so that's what started Fit by Friday that comes out Monday. It's a mindset. So I share on Mondays, I share a little story about something that happened to me the previous week and a lesson or a discipline that was learned from that. And then I share, then I challenge those reading to do that. And so then that turned into a blog that is on my website, which is aarondegler.com. And for a short time, I wrote for the Bowie News. It was called The Hard Truth. It was basically just it was basically what it was. It was the hard truth that sometimes we don't want to hear. And I shared that that was on a weekly basis. So again, those things that I write online, whether it's for social media, I always try to, when I post, I always try to add value to somebody's life. I always want to write something or say something or do something that adds value to others. I never want to post something for me personally on social media platform that is just all about me. Because that's not my purpose. If it's to change lives, I have to share what value that can bring to the people. So the emails, the blog, the hard truth, those are all things that will help me to write a book eventually. Multiple books, but it'll be writing a book. So, and writing with words, it's something I enjoy doing. So it's just, so again, not everybody likes to listen, not everybody likes to watch. Some people like to read. So if you like to read, then there's a place.
So this isn't the normal question on the My Hometown podcast, but it is a question that was asked when you interview people on your other podcast, Mind Body Podcast.
Mind Body.
Thank you.
It's new.
It's new. I've never heard of it.
It's
I've
only
never listened to it.
You go check out the Mind Body Project.
I get my words mixed up, and everybody knows that. But you're on your porch in your final days, and you look back over your life, and what successes do you see, or how do you want to be remembered?
Yeah, how do you? Yeah, the question is, so the question I ask those that interview on the Mind Body Project is,
Mind Body Project.
Yeah, the Mind Body Project. Yeah.
I know that.
It comes out every week. You can go check it out.
Yep.
Have a lot of good interviews on there. As in your final days, you're sitting on your porch, you're in your rocker, you're looking back over your life, and you look back over your life and say it was a successful life. And what does that look like? And so if I'm thinking about that, and I think, I've written my eulogy. I have a eulogy written because I believe when we write our eulogy, it all came from, again, an assignment that my dad gave to his English class in college. One of my clients had taken that class and had written her eulogy, and we had been talking about it, and so it inspired me to write my eulogy. And I wrote that eulogy, and I still believe it's true today. So when I'm gone, that's what's written about me. That hasn't happened, but it gives me a goal. It gives me something to work towards through my life, towards that eulogy. And the eulogy simply is about, the biggest thing is making an impact. On making an impact globally, making an impact on the world. And you think, if I could have made, when I do make a impact globally, and I look back and I say, I've touched every corner of the world, I'd be successful. And it seems like a tall task, a tall order. And I've talked about it before, about impacting the world. one of the reasons that My Hometown Podcast has been started is because of a book I read by John Maxwell. The title of that book was Change Your World. I'd always been focused on changing the world and making an impact on the world. And I realized through reading that book, it's change your world. So I changed some of those words to say, I want to make an impact on my world. And what is I can't make an impact on the world until I make an impact on my world. And my world starts with my family. It starts with my extended family. It starts with my friends. It starts with my community. I can't make an impact on the world until I make an impact where I live. And that's really why My Hometown Podcast started. Because I want to help other business owners. I want to help other organizations, other charities, other people understand our community. So is that still living up to my eulogy? Is that still living up to sitting on the porch and looking back and saying I'm a success? Yes. Because if I hadn't written my eulogy and realized that I want to make an impact, I could ease my life would be so much easier. Owning Synergy Fitness and personal training. My life would be so easy. I'd come in, my gym would run itself. I'd train clients for 10, 12 hours a day. I'd have 3.5, maybe 2.5, 3 days off a week. My life would be easy. But that's not the life I've chosen. Because an impact doesn't come by just sitting at home. An impact means putting out a podcast. It means putting out 2 podcasts. It means offering a class to our seniors for free. It means doing something that gives back to our kids in our community. It means putting on a 5K that raises money for kids in our community. It means helping our local businesses do better business. It means doing all these things that I don't get money for. But yet it allows me to have influence. And to make an impact, we have to have influence. And influence is not a bad thing. It's a leader, as I said before, a leader is simply having influence over one other person. And if you have influence over your family, you're a leader. If you have influence over your community, one person in your community, you're a leader. And so I sit on the porch and I look back and I say, if I've impacted the world, I'm a success. But there's dots to that world. I have to first impact my family. I have to first impact my community. I have to impact my state. I have to impact my country. Then I can start to impact my world.
Okay.
So if I've done that, all those dots have connected.
Okay. And the last question. Why do you call Bowie your hometown?
Well, I'll call Bowie my hometown, which I ask everybody. Hopefully the answers I've given lately would, in the last 10 minutes or so, would explain to everybody why I call it my hometown, because I love the place. Most everybody that has been on the show has said, love the people. And that's true. The people, it's just like a church. The church is just a building. It's the people inside that make it what it is. And the same is true for our community. It's the people in our community that make it what it is. My passion, my hope for this community, for our community, because it is my hometown, is that when people come into our community, they feel a sense of it being different. They're not sure what's different. It's just like, I've mentioned before, it's just like the Field of Dreams when all the cars are pulling up and James Earl Jones says, people won't know why they're here. They're just here and they're going to hand over money because it makes them feel a way. And I call it my hometown because of that, because of the people that make up this community, because I call it my hometown because it's where I feel home. You and I have traveled all over the world. And what is always the best feeling after a trip?
Getting home.
Getting home. There's never a time that we've been like, oh man, we're back to Bowie again. It's always been, and this is home. Same thing as when our kids come home, they drive around town to see what's new in our town. And it's just like when we go to our parents' house, meet their moms, meet my parents. You sit down in a chair, and it's just like, you just feel like, oh, this is the place to be. And that's the way I feel here. And, you know, and since it is my hometown and it is my place, that's why I want to have a show like my hometown, because I want to make it even a better place to live. And for more people to come to our town and go, I want to make this my hometown. And if you ask me how do I decide if I'm sitting on the porch end of my days and say, was my hometown podcast a success? It would be because somebody listened and said, I listened and I came to this town and I made it my hometown. And then we can share our hometown with other people, because we do want more people to make it their hometown, because we don't want to hide a special thing we have. That's kind of being selfish. We just kind of cover it up, but we want to say, it's my hometown. I want you to have what I have.
Okay. Well, I appreciate your honesty and answering all the questions that all the people have for you today. And I also, so if people are wondering how they can find out information about Synergy Fitness or your blog or all of your things, how would they do that?
So, like I mentioned before, you go to Aaron Degler, AARON, and that has it all there.
Okay. You
can go to Synergy Fitness from there. You can find my blog. You can find podcast. We're on YouTube. Aaron Degler is the channel. So in social media, you put in my name, and you'll find me on any one of those.
Okay.
And you'll always find me at Synergy Fitness.
That you sure will. All right. Well, thank you so much for being a guest today.
Thank you. And thank you to each of you for stopping by and visiting with us a little bit today. And we're looking forward to seeing you around my hometown.